guys, and welcome back to Claire's Clues. On today's video, we'll be talking about the book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Covey. See, the book is just that. It's 7 habits on how to create and cultivate highly effective individuals. So let me start by saying this. Reactive people tend to focus on the things that they cannot control, while as proactive people only focus on the things that they can control. So these two people are very important, and you'll find them in your day-to-day life. Let me quickly run through all the 7 habits that we have here, and then I'll start to delve in and explain what they're about. So number 1, he talks about being proactive. That's habit number 1. Habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. Number 3 is put first things first, and number 4 is think win-win. Number 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Number 6 is synergize, and number 7 is sharpen the saw. Alright guys, so let me start with number 1, be proactive. So you have 2 choices. You can be reactive or proactive in a situation, and you're in control of which one you decide to choose. So being reactive is where you'll find in certain situations when you're speaking to someone that a lot of people tend to bite back when they disagree or they have a valid opinion of their own, whatever it might be, but they want you to know it. And they will make it very forceful and very blunt in the fact that this is where they stand and they disagree or you're wrong. That would be reactive. Now, proactive would be if someone was to disagree with you, but not be blunt about it and say, look, I respect your standpoint, I understand your view, but I disagree for these reasons. And I have the right to keep my own opinion. But I understand that yours is valid for you, and I respect that. That's being proactive. It saves an argument, it saves people getting hot-headed and storming out, whatever it might be, and this way you're being proactive in a situation. Now moving on guys to number 2, how he says, begin with the end in mind. So what he means by this is he says, begin with the end in mind of how you want to leave everything behind. How do you want your life to be remembered? What do you want to be remembered by? Think about what you're doing daily, day in, day out, towards people and yourself. You know, everything around you and everyone around you has an impact of what you, everything that you do has an impact on everyone and everything around you. So keep that in mind. Keep the end in mind, because once you know what it is you want, what you want to leave behind, maybe you have something to pass on to your children, whatever that might be, keep it in mind, because you'll find that by doing that, you'll be starting to take steps towards the more proactive version of yourself. And in this way, you'll start leaving behind and doing things that will leave a memory that you want cultivated and created in the minds of those around you. And not just that, everything is created twice. So once in your mind and second in reality. So make sure that whatever it is you're thinking, it's in a proactive manner, because you'll find that you'll start to act it out. It will become reality. And once it does, you can't take it back. You can only move forward. We can't go into the past and change things. Unfortunately, we're not there yet in the technology side of things. But, sorry guys. But we are getting there, but like I said, unfortunately, we're not there yet. So we can only take steps forward. So make sure what you're doing today is getting you where you want to be tomorrow. Think about that every day. And you'll find that at the end, you will be one step closer, or if not, exactly where you wanted to be. So also have a mission statement. This is very important. This helps you decide and have a plan of what it is you want to achieve. So it's basically a goal, and it could be a lifelong one, but it sets out what it is that you want to either A, leave behind, B, achieve, or C, pass on. Whatever those 3 things are, write out a mission statement of, I want to do this, I want to achieve this by this time, this date. You know, it might even be by the time I pass away, I want to have had children that I have taught, you know, manners, decency, whatever it might be. It can be as little as that, but it's a big thing for you. So you can focus on that every day. That's your mission statement. All right, guys, number 3, he talks about put first things first. This is important too. So it's deciphering the difference between important and urgent. Some things are important and urgent, and others are, you know, urgent but not important, or important and not urgent. You'll find that through sifting out these things, you'll be able to make better, clearer decisions on what it is you want to achieve and how to get there. So urgent and important would be things like managing a crisis or problem solving, pressing issues at hand. that sort of a thing. Now, urgent but not important is things like, sorry, I'm trying to think on this one, things that would take you away from the more urgent and important things. And also, not urgent but important, you'll find that you can focus on these on your spare time that you've got outside of urgent and important. And these things will generally be like critical thinking, considering basically the opportunity and planning that you have of the future and going through the things that you need to do. So this falls down to the planning section. And then you've got your not urgent and not important. Now, I'm sure we all know what this is. These are things like when we sit back and we watch Netflix, or, we scroll through Facebook, or maybe it's just we sit around and we eat food. Simple things like that are things that take us away from the more urgent and important things. So make sure that these things come second and first things come first. All right, guys, moving on to number 4. This is where he says, think win-win. All right? So think win-win. Let me explain this really quickly. There's 6 types of relationships. All right, so you've got lose-win, win-lose, lose-lose, which is where no one gains anything. And then you've got win and no deal, but you've also got win-win. All right, so the first few you sort of want to avoid. All right, so lose-win and win-lose means that one side or another is always going to lose out. And unfortunately, that means you'll be left with someone who is very unhappy with a certain situation, which means that you'll have to go back and either try to mend it or you'll lose an opportunity. They're your options. But if we can avoid those two, you generally don't want to go down those paths at all. There's also the lose-lose, which you definitely want to avoid. This is where no one wins. All right, so you both want to sort of gain something out of it, and it's only fair that both sides win to some degree. So a lose-lose is not beneficial for anyone. So avoid this as well, because this means no gain for absolutely anyone. All right, guys, and moving on, there's also a win and no deal. So this is where one side wins and the other side disagrees completely, and they say, nope, I want nothing to do with it. Rewrite the document, whatever it might be, no deal on that one. So that's where, again, it's completely selfish of one person because they get to win while another person says, but I didn't want to move forward in this. I didn't want to do it. And they lose out anyway. So that's quite selfish of one person. So try to avoid that one as well, because there's a better option. There's a better opportunity for both sides. And that's when we think win-win. That's when you can gain as much as the other person can. Now, this is where both parties leave the table happy, and you don't have to have other altercations, arguments, discussions, or further implications of mediation or whatever it might be. So always think win-win, no matter the situation, even if it's with family or friends, because no one enjoys losing, and we all know that feeling. So let's try to avoid that and always think to ourselves, win-win. Does this benefit me as much as it benefits the other person? Because this way you'll find that you're not burning bridges unnecessarily. All right, guys, so moving on to now habit number 5, he talks about how we need to seek first to understand, then to be understood. So what he means by this is that what you'll find in a conversation is a lot of people first want to be understood before they try to understand the other side. Now, this means that the other side is generally shut off to listening or opening up or wanting to engage in a conversation. So we need to seek first to understand what the other side is talking about, and then reiterate back to them to make sure that they know that we've understood what it is they've said. And then we can put our side on the table and say, look, this is my point of view. This is where I've understood you. Now I wish for you to understand me. So seek first to understand, then to be understood. Now there's 5 levels of listening in a conversation, guys. So I'll break these down really quickly. 1 is ignoring. Now we all know how rude that is. We all know how, hurtful it is when someone's just not listening, they don't care, they're staring off into the distance, and we just don't want to, know that person at the time. All right, so that's number 1, ignoring. So number 2 is pretending. So barely listening. This is someone who sort of goes, yeah, I hear you, yep, okay, but they're not really actually, involved in the conversation. They're not actually listening to what you're saying. They're just giving automatic responses, things that they think fit because they're on autopilot. They're not really listening. They hear words here and there and they think, yep, that'll fit, so I'll just say that, but I'm not actually paying attention. All right, so number 2 is pretending. Number 3 is selective hearing. Now, we know a few of these people as well. People that hear what they want to hear and not necessarily the whole picture. They're not hearing what you're saying to them because they only hear things like, I didn't like, and then none of the rest of the sentence. And they might take that personally because that is selective hearing, where they only hear the parts that matter to them. All right, so that's number 3, is selective hearing. Number 4, he talks about attentive listening. This is where people are genuinely engaged in a conversation. These people will give you direct answers back, they'll nod and agree, and they'll be invested in whatever it is you're saying, and they'll start a conversation where it's back and forth. It will flow. All right, so that's attentive listening. That's number 4, guys. And number 5 is empathetic listening. This is intent to understand. This is the kind of listening you get in deep conversations. Now, not a lot of people are very well versed in this, but you will find a handful here and there that, even like your parents sometimes, will listen attentively to whatever it is you'll have to say. So the person that you'll be speaking to when this happens will generally be not just attentively listening, but they'll be listening to understand your side. And not necessarily to have a rebuttal or, a comeback or to say something on top, but just to listen to hear what it is that you have to say. All right, so that's empathetic listening, guys. Listening to understand. Because remember, we want to seek to understand, then to be understood. All right, so that's the seek first to understand, then to be understood. And that's the 5 levels of listening. All right, so moving on to number 6, it's synergize. Synergize is where he talks about a sum is greater than the whole. So a good example of this is 1 and 1 equals 3. Now, if you're any good at maths, like most of us should be, 1 and 1, as you know, does not equal 3. But in this context, what he talks about as a great example is if you've got 2 parents or just 2 partners, and one day they decide to have a child. These 2 people have then now created 3. So 1 and 1 equals 3. They now have a family of 3. All right, so that's what he's talking about with synergize, guys. And number 7 is sharpen the saw. So make time to cultivate forms of self-improvement. This means that basically you're spending a lot of time on yourself to sharpen the things that you are good at. Get good at whatever it is you have strengths in, and also make sure at the same time that whatever your weaknesses are, that you are sharpening them too, that you are getting them to a strength. Because whatever weakness you have can be cultivated into a strength. This is what he means by sharpen the saw. Don't waste your time on cultivating just your strengths, because at the end of the day, you'll find even though you might be good in one area, you'll have a fault in the same area that will be a weakness, and that will let you down. Sorry, guys. But if you were to sharpen that saw, if you were to cultivate that weakness, you might find that when push comes to shove, that your strength and your weaknesses will go hand in hand in getting you to where you want to go. All right, guys, that's all from me. I'll quickly run through this for you again just in a moment. So just to say, reactive people focus on the things that they can't change, and proactive people focus on only the things that they can change. All right, so the 7 habits are be proactive. Number 2 is begin with the end in mind. Number 3 is put first things first. 4 is think win-win. Number 6, he talks about how we need to seek first to understand, then to be understood. All right. That was number 5. Number 6 is synergize, and number 7 is sharpen the saw. All right, guys. So that'll be all from me tonight. I'll leave this with you. But until next time, we'll be making a lot more of these videos for this training series to help you with your personal development goals. So leave a comment down below on what you like the most, and I look forward to seeing you next time in Claire's Clues.